This story is part of a series called Survival. If you'd like to read or listen to other stories in this series, you can find links below. This is a difficult story to tell and a difficult story to hear. So I'm going to start with a trigger warning. This story contains themes of financial exploitation and emotional abuse. Now, before we begin, I'd like to acknowledge that many people have to make tough choices in order to survive, including sacrificing their morals and values. Survivors should not be stigmatized, and they should not blame themselves. This story is not intended to reinforce those messages. Rather, it's intended to explore what happens when someone is able to survive without compromising their morals. I used to think I knew who I was. In fact, I thought I was the kind of person who would never do something like this. But when faced with the possibility of losing everything I loved, I realized I would do whatever I needed to survive. I am telling this story because I believe that we all have the capacity for great good and great evil. And it's only when we're confronted with the possibility of losing everything that we realize which path we'll choose. My story started when I was young. I grew up in a small village in a poor country. My parents scraped by working as farmers and day laborers. We had barely enough money to put food on the table. But despite our poverty, I was happy. I had everything I needed: food, clothing, shelter, and love. All I knew was that my life was hard, but it was also beautiful. When I was 16, everything changed. My father was diagnosed with a rare disease that made him too weak to work. Suddenly, we had no money coming in, and our savings quickly dwindled. My mother was forced to take out loans from local moneylenders to put food on the table. But even that wasn't enough. And soon we were eating only one meal a day. I couldn't bear to watch my family suffer anymore, so I made the decision to leave school and get a job. I found work as a domestic worker, cleaning houses and taking care of children. For a few dollars a week, I was able to ease my family's financial burden a little bit, but it wasn't enough. My father's illness continued to worsen, and my mother's desperate pleas to the moneylenders went unanswered. One day, my father passed away, and with his death, our financial troubles seemed to compound. We owed money to the moneylenders. We had no steady source of income, and now we had to bury my father. Desperate for help, I turned to the internet. I posted on various social media platforms, begging for money to pay for my father's funeral expenses. To my surprise, people responded. Within a few days, I had raised enough money to cover the cost of the funeral. Overwhelmed with gratitude, I sent messages thanking everyone for their generosity. Little did I know that these seemingly innocent messages would lead me down a dark path. After my father's funeral, I returned to my job as a domestic worker. But my mind was no longer in the right place. All I could think about was the people who had donated money to my fundraiser. Their kindness had saved my family from financial ruin, and I couldn't stop thinking about how I could repay them. One day, I had an epiphany. Why not start a GoFundMe campaign for my family's general welfare? I thought to myself, I don't need to tell them the truth. I can just say that my family is struggling and ask for donations. Surely people would understand, and so I did. I started a GoFundMe campaign, and within weeks, I had raised thousands of dollars. With the money, I was able to pay off our debts, buy food and medicine, and give my mother a small allowance. At first, I felt guilty about lying to these people. But then, I started to convince myself that it was for a good cause. After all, I was helping my family and bringing them out of poverty. Soon, I was spending more time managing my scam than working as a domestic worker. I would spend hours every day responding to messages, asking for updates, sending photos and videos of my family and myself, and planning my next move. My life revolved around fundraising. As the years went by, I became increasingly brazen about my deception. I would regularly ask for money, knowing full well that I had no intention of repaying it. When people questioned me, I would come up with elaborate lies to explain myself. I convinced myself that I was smarter than the people I was scamming and that they deserved it anyway. But all of this was about to change. One day, I met someone online who saw through my facade. She called me out for being a liar and a scammer, and she threatened to expose me unless I gave her money. I was horrified. I couldn't believe that someone would think that I was a scammer. I had managed to con people for so long, and now I was being exposed. I had two options: give her the money or expose my scam to the entire internet. I chose to give her the money, but I was furious. How dare she threaten me, I thought to myself. I decided that I was done with this charade. I would pack up my things and start a new life where no one knew me as a scammer. But when I went to start a new life, I soon realized that my past was catching up to me. People I had scammed were posting about me on social media, warning others about me. My reputation as a scammer preceded me, and it ruined any chance I had of starting over. My confidence and self-esteem plummeted. I felt like a monster. I hated myself for what I had done. I now realized that I had been living a life of deception for so long that I had convinced myself that I was a bad person. I thought that I didn't deserve happiness or love because I had stolen it from other people. But as I grow older, I'm beginning to understand that I deserve love and happiness just as much as anyone else. I'm also learning that I don't have to define myself by my past. I can choose to be a better person today and tomorrow. If I could go back in time, I would warn myself about the dangers of deception. I would tell myself that it may seem like an easy way out in the moment, but it will only lead to more pain and suffering in the long run. I would also tell myself that I deserve love and happiness, and that I do not have to compromise my morals and values in order to get it. Looking back on my life, I can't help but wonder why I chose the path that I did. Why did I decide to lie and deceive others instead of facing my problems head-on? Why did I think that I was better than the people I was scamming? And why did I allow my confidence to get the best of me? I honestly don't have the answers to these questions. I can only guess that my desperation to help my family clouded my judgment and made me do things I wouldn't normally do. I allowed myself to believe that I was doing the right thing, even though I knew it wasn't. I convinced myself that I was better than the people I was scamming. But in reality, I was just a desperate young girl trying to help her family. My story is a reminder to all of us that we must be careful not to let our emotions get the best of us. When we're feeling desperate, we may be willing to do things that we would never normally do. We must also remember that everyone deserves compassion and understanding. Even those who have done terrible things are still human beings, and they deserve our empathy. Finally, my story is a reminder that we must be aware of the signs of cognitive dissonance and how it can lead us down a dark path. We must learn to recognize when our actions are causing harm to others, and we must be willing to change course even when it's difficult. The most important lesson I've learned in my life is that we must always strive to be better than the circumstances we find ourselves in. No matter how difficult our situation may seem, we must never give up on our morals and values. I hope that my story will inspire others to stay true to themselves no matter what challenges they may face.